Let's take a closer look now at one of the contenders for defense secretary. Trump calls James Mad Dog Mattis a general's general. But is he the right fit for Pentagon chief? National security correspondent Jennifer Griffin has that story tonight.
General James Mattis was known by his Marines as Mad Dog when he oversaw the 1st Marine Division during the invasion of Iraq in 2003. He then led them into Fallujah. He served in the First Gulf War and led Task Force 58 into Afghanistan after 9/11. His nickname stemmed from what his troops saw as the effect he had on the enemy. His radio call sign was Chaos. As a lieutenant general, he was known for his blunt talk.
You go into Afghanistan, you got guys who slapped women around for 5 years because they didn't wear a veil. You know, guys like that ain't got no manhood left anyway, so it's a hell of a lot of fun to shoot them. You know, I mean, it's a good fight.
General Mattis is on the short list to be named defense secretary.
General's just leaving. Fantastic. General Mattis, fantastic.
After the meeting, Mr. Trump tweeted, "Mattis is a general's general." His quotables are reminiscent of George S. Patton, quote, "Be polite, be professional, but have a plan to kill everybody you meet. I don't lose any sleep at night over the potential for failure. I cannot even spell the word." And perhaps most relevant today, no war is over until the enemy says it's over. We may think it over, we may declare it over, but in fact, the enemy gets a vote.
When you've gone through the horrors of war, like most senior military people have, normally we want our policymakers to exhaust all the options short of war before the decision is made to go to war. And that is where Jim Mattis is coming from.
Mattis would be the first general to be Secretary of Defense since President Harry Truman nominated 5-star General George C. Marshall at the start of the Korean War. The tradition of civilian control of the military dates back to George Washington and the 1947 National Security Act, which instituted a 7-year cooling-off period for generals. Before retiring in 2013, Mattis served as the head of U.S. Central Command for 3 years. His opposition to the Iran nuclear deal raised eyebrows in the West Wing.
It's an arms control agreement that fell short of a lot of hopes.
Mattis never made any secret about who from the Middle East he believed posed the greatest risk to the U.S.
Iran presents the most significant regional threat to stability and security.
General Mattis was unceremoniously told to retire 3 months early from CENTCOM. He was never given the courtesy of a phone call from President Obama or the defense secretary. He was handed a note by an aide informing him of the commander-in-chief's decision, Doug.
And Jennifer, what role would President Obama play, if any, in whether or not Mattis gets the SecDef job?
Well, remember, General Mattis would need a law passed by Congress to make an exception to the 7-year cooling-off period that bars military officers from serving in civilian roles at the Pentagon. The law could originate in the Senate Armed Services Committee, where Senator John McCain, as chairman, has already expressed support publicly for General Mattis. The law must be passed before the nomination can be sent to Congress and would be subject to a veto from President Obama if Congress decides to act before January 20th. In other words, President Obama essentially fired General Mattis from his position at CENTCOM because he was seen as too hawkish on Iran, and now he again holds General Mattis' fate in his hands, Doug.
Jennifer Griffin, good to have you back in Washington.
Thank you.